Yeah, what's poppin', cat? You know it is. The hard business, that.
Okay, welcome back everybody. My name is Sarah Otto-Combs. I'm an Ayurvedic practitioner and the founder of Siddha Labs. So today I'm going back to the basics, talking about VPK. What does that even mean? If you don't know, it's cool. Stick with me. I'm going to tell you all about it. Today we are going to talk about Vata Dosha. And so in Ayurveda, we're looking at these three primary doshas, Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, to understand a person's unique constitution type. Because guess what? We're all different. We all have different things we need to thrive. And we use that information to understand what foods, what diet, and what lifestyle habits we need to employ to find balance. Because man, there's no such thing as a one size fits all. So we gotta mix and match. And today we're gonna do all this stuff about Vata Dosha. And you'll understand why I'm waving my hands around in a minute. Besides the fact that I just like to do that. Okay, so what is Vata Dosha? Vata Dosha is composed of air and ether. So when we're talking about people who are Vata, we are talking about people who have a dominance of air or ether in their bodies and who have imbalances of that nature as well. So it gets a little confusing because sometimes when we're like, oh, they're so Vata, that might not be their baseline constitution, right? You can be a Pitta person and I can still say you're so Vata if that's where you are imbalanced. So I'm just throwing that out there because it gets a little confusing if you don't understand that detail. And it is in the details that true knowledge and wisdom are revealed. Okay, so air and ether. Now, what are some of the qualities of air and ether? We are thinking about dry quality, mobility. We are thinking about clearness. We are thinking about cold. We are thinking about rough. These are all components of Vata Dosha. And you might be wondering, how does rough translate to a person? Well, number one way is their skin. So when you have very rough, dry skin, like I do on my hands, this is a very deep-seated Vata imbalance. So you can start to identify that in yourself and other people. So what are some of the physical characteristics of a Vata person? So Vata people tend to be more, they are more slender, or those with Vata imbalances may become slender as well. And again, that's because air and ether, there's no mass to that. It's your Vata friend is very thin, very wiry. They may have curly hair. This is a very Vata characteristics. They might have a hard time sitting still because one of the qualities of Vata is mobility, like a lot of dancers, there's some Vata there like this. And they might not have much of an attention span because they're just kind of spaced out. Like Vata people, they're those people, they are always changing their minds and their plans. They might not be able to make a decision because there's no rooting. Air and ether, again, is just so floaty and free. So, people with this dominance in their personality are just going to feel like, I don't know, wherever the wind blows me. This is a really typical, stereotypical viewpoint and understanding of what Vata Dosha looks like, right? Very creative when in balance. Vata can really they can think about things in a different way because they're not so locked down into structure in the way Pitta or Kapha people are. And now that doesn't mean other people can't be creative, but really creativity is a function of Vata. Even the way people move can be Vata, like waving your hands around, a lot of like this, like bigger movements, fidgeting, twitching, tapping your foot, your hand. This is all Vata Dosha. So now that we understand some of those characteristics, how can we use this knowledge to balance ourselves if we are in fact Vata, or if we live in a Vata climate? So if you're living in the desert, if you're living in a place that is dry, if it is a dry summer for you, all of these things are naturally increasing Vata, or air and ether, in the environment. And as we know, or if you don't, that's okay, you'll learn, as without, so within. Whatever is happening in your external environment is reflected internally. And this is why when we go outside into the hot desert heat, we get thirsty, because our water level has dropped, which means that our blood volume is decreasing. We're drying up and the body's like, help, help me. I need some water. I need to increase my blood volume again. So like this. Similarly, when it's very damp outside, like you'll be humid. I grew up in the Midwest, and whenever I go home, I'm like, how nobody here has wrinkles? Because the air is so moist that they're all just moist. And so we need to understand that this dryness is something that we're going to have to manage as we age. These aspects of Vata they do increase as we get older. And we have these phases of life. The first phase is Kapha, where we're really juicy. We're like a beautiful little fresh grape. Then there's Pitta, the grape's starting to kind of lose some juice. This is the middle phase of life. And then there's Vata, where we're slowly turning into a raisin. And a raisin is dry. So how do you think you would bring balance to a raisin or a Vata person? Well, Vata is balanced by its opposites. So that means it's balanced by Kapha dosha and things that are oily and heavy in nature. So Vata does very well with using heavier foods, more fats, and eating a little bit more if the digestion can handle it, so that they ground into their bodies. So Vata very often will not want to do that. They're the grazers. They don't want to even commit the attention span to cook a meal. Like, this is Vata, right? They're just like, it's cool, I'm just gonna snack all day long. But actually it's pretty important to ground, to settle, as this is very balancing for Vata dosha, right? Remember that Vata is mobility, it's coldness, it's dry, it's rough. So we need to settle it. And this brings me into exercise. Like, what kind of exercise is good for Vata? I know a lot of people, Vata dominant, who love to dance. And I think dance is a beautiful activity for anyone. Because it's so creative and expressive, and I love to do it myself, that's for sure. But Vata does well with types of dance that are not so strenuous, right? So maybe studying Odissi, classical Indian dance, it can be harder for a Vata person. They are very suited to gentle yoga, gentle swimming, long walks, because Vata is inherently a little weaker. And why do I say that? Well, you have to think about the fact that you need fuel in order for a fire to burn. And really, we're all candles of different forms, right? Some of us are like these skinny little candles that just don't have much fire, much wax to burn, right? There's not so much there. So when you light it, it's like a tea candle. It's gonna go out very quickly. And this is kind of an analogy for the energy reserves of Vata. It's like this little tea candle. There's just not that much there. So you need to be mindful of how you use it, and use it sparingly. And the other way, besides the heavier foods and these slower movements, is putting your phone down. Like, you can, just to be clear, you can be Kapha or Pitta dominant and have a Vata imbalance. So I might be saying, oh, you're so Vata, but again, this doesn't necessarily mean I'm talking about your baseline constitution. I might be just talking about your current imbalance. Now, again, this gets a little tricky. If you want to go deeper with that, you can work with me as a practitioner. But I just want to throw that out there again, because it's the details, right? They're very, very important in correct understanding and use of this knowledge. So basically, to balance Vata, you're going to have that heavier diet, well-cooked, hydrating foods, like this brown rice and kale nonsense. This is not for you. Crunchy chips, very Vata increasing, because it's dry, so don't have these like quick dry snacks. You really need something that's nourishing and grounding. And this will take you a very long way in being a happy, healthy, balanced Vata. And who doesn't want that? Okay. I hope this video was appropriately disjointed so that you get the full understanding and grasp of what Vata really is. And if you have any questions, please comment below. And remember to subscribe to my channel. Follow me on Instagram at Vta Labs. And of course, check out my products because they bomb.com. All right. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, what's poppin', cat?